The wind swept over the Dakota plains like a breath from a sleeping giant, carrying dust and the low moan of a coming storm. The sun hung low behind a curtain of drifting clouds, its light scattered and pale. Somewhere, a hawk cried out. In that vast emptiness, a lone rider appeared, a figure carved from silence and survival. His coat flapped like a loose sail, and his hat brim dipped low over shadowed eyes. Wade Colton had been riding for hours, maybe days. Time didn't count. Much out here, the world moved at the speed of aching hooves and tired hearts. Ahead, the rail tracks gleamed faintly, like twin scars across the land. And near them, something. He pulled up the reins. There, just off the gravel and sun-baked ties, was a bundle, no larger than a sack of flour, barely moving. Wade's hand slid to the rifle across his saddle. He dismounted slow, cautious, each boot step crunching gravel like broken bones. The wind tugged at his coat, urging him back, but he pressed forward. It was a child, a little girl, maybe 5 or 6, curled into herself like a wounded animal. Her dress was torn, caked in dirt and dried blood. Her arms bore bruises. Her hair hung in knots over her face. Around her neck, tied with fraying string, hung a crude wooden sign. He crouched and turned it over. Not worth feeding. Wade's jaw clenched. A gust of wind rattled the sign against her chest. She didn't speak, didn't cry, just stared through him with hollow eyes, not blank but emptied like a well-run dry. When he reached to check her for injuries, she flinched, curling tighter. Behind Wade's eyes, something flickered, not in the sky, but far back in his own mind. A woman's hand reaching for him, fever burning her brow. A child coughing under, wool blankets. Shallow graves beneath a cottonwood tree. Wade looked away. He'd buried those memories long ago. Or tried to. But this girl, this child, felt like a ghost he hadn't expected to see again. He wrapped her gently in his coat, lifting her like glass. She didn't resist. Just folded into his chest, breath ragged. I got you now, he muttered. Ain't nobody gonna call you worthless again. The ride back was slow. Wade placed her on the saddle in front of him, arms around her tiny frame, his coat wrapped tight. She didn't speak but leaned into his chest like maybe she recognized something in him. Something broken. Something she understood. I didn't know her name, Wade said later. But something about her felt familiar. Like a wound I never let heal. Bitter Creek was a town that barely made it onto maps. A cluster of tired buildings, one saloon, one mercantile, a jailhouse, and not much else but wind and suspicion. Folks there looked at strangers the way dogs look at strangers, wary, teeth just behind the eyes. Wade rode straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Matlin was cleaning a shotgun when Wade came through the door. I found her near the tracks, Wade said. Looked like someone left her for dead. Matlin raised a brow. Tracks are full of orphans these days. Migrant trains, famine, bad parents, and take your pick. She's just a kid. She's not your problem, Colton. We ain't got space, and we sure as hell don't got food to spare. She needs help. So do half the folks here. The sheriff shrugged. You want to be a hero? Take it up with the preacher. Outside, a woman sweeping her porch saw the child and spat into the dust. Them types just drain what little we got. Better off letting the wolves take her. Wade didn't say a word. He turned, walked back down the street with the girl still clinging to him. A boy muttered something from behind a barrel. Another laughed. A rock clattered against the side of his boot. He kept walking. They rode out before. The sun dipped too low, away from town, away from eyes that had long forgotten how to see children as anything but burdens. The sky darkened with storm clouds. Thunder growled low. Wade urged his horse faster, scanning the horizon. Rain hit them hard and cold. The girl trembled against his chest. He pulled his coat tighter around her and scanned for shelter. An old trapper's cabin appeared out of the trees like a ghost, weather-worn, leaning, half buried in brush. But it had walls, a roof. It'd do. Inside, He found a dry spot to build a fire. The wind howled through the cracks in the boards, and the chimney smoked, but the flame caught and burned low and steady. He peeled off her wet clothes, wrapped her in wool. She sat close to the fire, knees drawn to her chest, still silent, still watchful. Wade laid the wooden sign on the table, looked at it for a long while. His fingers curled around it. Then he stood, walked to the flames, and tossed it in. It sizzled, cracked, then vanished in smoke. She stared at him, her small hand reached out, slow, unsure, and touched his wrist. Just once, a quiet touch, a thank you without words. Wade swallowed. His voice cracked like the logs in the fire. "You don't gotta speak," he whispered. "I hear you just fine." She leaned against his arm. Outside, the storm beat at the walls. But inside, two souls, each orphaned in their own way, began to feel the faintest trace of warmth returning, like embers, waiting to burn again. The days passed quietly, marked by the rhythm of survival. Wade and the girl wandered deeper into the wild, away from the rail lines and judgmental towns, into a country where the wind carried no voices but its own. She still hadn't spoken a word, but her silence no longer seemed empty. It had shape, intention, meaning. He started calling her Junebug, a name his wife used to whisper when their son toddled through the garden, chasing insects with wide-eyed wonder. Wade taught her to ride, one hand gently guiding hers along the reins. She wobbled but stayed up, face focused, jaw clenched like a miniature version of him. He showed her how to bait a hook, how to read tracks in the mud, how to listen to the forest rather than look. She learned quickly, silently. On the fourth night, he crafted a pair of tiny moccasins from deer hide, stitching them with leftover sinew by firelight. When he handed them to her, she touched the soft leather with reverence. The next morning, she wore them proudly, stomping around the clearing with quiet delight. And then she started humming. Just a low tune, soft, fragile as a spider's thread. But Wade recognized it. It was an old lullaby, one his wife used to sing in their prairie home, back when the days were long and golden and full of promise. He turned his face from her and stared into the trees, throat tight. That night, sleep did not come gently. In his dreams, he was back in that home. Sunlight slanted through linen curtains. His wife moved about the kitchen, humming the same tune. Their boy sat on the floor with wooden toys, giggling. Then the light faded. The boy coughed. Again. Then again. Deeper. His wife touched her head. Fever. It came like a storm, swift and brutal. He remembered holding them both. Cool water on burning skin. The prayers. The desperation. The stillness. And then, only a shovel. And 2 mounds beneath the cottonwood tree. One small. One smaller. When they went cold, his voice whispered through the dream. I did too. He jerked awake, sweat cold on his neck. Junebug was gone. His heart seized. He bolted from the cabin, rifle in hand, eyes sweeping the moonlit woods. Sound, whimpering, then a growl. He followed the noise down the ravine, through brambles and thorns until he found her, crouched beneath a log, face streaked with tears, 2 wolves circling just feet away. Wade didn't hesitate. He grabbed a fallen branch, lit the end with his tinderbox, and swung the torch in a wide arc, shouting hoarsely. The wolves snarled but backed away, blinking against the light before melting into the darkness. Junebug flung herself into his arms, trembling. I got you, he muttered again, pressing his forehead to hers. I got you. By morning, Wade was limping, the fever back in his bones. His supplies had dwindled, no more meat, just hardtack and dried berries. He stumbled through the trees, Junebug at his side, trying to guide the horse, but everything was starting to spin. They reached a creek, shallow and cold, and he dropped to his knees beside it. Junebug tugged at his collar, her little hands trying to rouse him. Then, a rustle. A figure stepped from the trees, silent as a shadow, tall, broad, wrapped in a buffalo hide, a Lakota scout. The man knelt beside them. His eyes were sharp, unreadable, his skin marked by age and sun. He said nothing, just checked Wade's pulse, then lifted him with surprising ease and carried him to a thicket-covered lean-to nearby. Junebug watched with wide eyes as the man worked in silence, using signs and simple gestures. He packed herbs into Wade's wound, tied a poultice over his leg, and gave Junebug water in a carved wooden bowl. Wade came 2 hours later, hand instinctively reaching for his rifle. The Lakota man didn't flinch, just raised a hand, a gesture of peace. Wade squinted. "Who the hell are you?" No answer, just a nod toward the fire, where Junebug now sat, curled up beside the stranger, mimicking the way he shaped sticks into a trap. The girl was fascinated. She mirrored his movements with the concentration of someone watching a magician. Wade wanted to protest, to say they didn't need help, but he was too weak to argue. The days that followed passed in a rhythm of quiet cooperation. The scout, whose name was Toma, spoke little, preferring hand signs, head tilts, and long stares that felt like questions. He hunted small game, cleaned wounds, built traps, and carved out shelter from brush and branches. Wade, half-healed, watched him with suspicion. That night, as the fire crackled low, Wade finally asked, "Why are you helping?" Toma didn't look up. "You didn't throw the girl away." Wade blinked. "That makes you different," Toma added, and then said nothing more. They sat in silence, staring into the flames. Junebug fell asleep against Wade's side, her tiny hand clutching the edge of his coat. In that stillness, something passed between the men, not trust, not yet, but the beginning of something close. Respect, maybe, or recognition. 3 days later, as they packed up camp, Toma paused, ears alert. He knelt to the earth, pressing a palm to the ground. "Deserters," he said simply. Wade raised an eyebrow. "Soldiers who left the war. Bandits now. They take from cabins. Take children." Wade's face darkened, his hand tightened around the rifle strap. "We need to move," Toma said. "Now." Junebug tugged on Wade's sleeve. Her mouth opened, and for the first time since he found her, she spoke. Just one word. "Mama." Wade froze. Her voice was soft, cracked from disuse, but clear. Toma looked at Wade. Wade nodded. He dropped to one knee beside her. "We're gonna keep you safe," he whispered. "No matter what." Junebug nodded, eyes big with something new. Not fear, but trust. And behind them, the wind shifted. Danger was coming, and they were ready to meet it. The mountain pass was narrow, rock walls climbing steep and sun-cracked on both sides. Shadows moved quicker here, stealing light even in the middle of the day. Toma rode ahead, eyes sharp, posture tense. Wade's gut had that feeling again, the one that told him the land was watching. Junebug sat behind him in the saddle, arms wrapped around his coat. Her chin rested between his shoulders. She was quiet, but alert, like she'd learned something vital about survival, and never let it go. The first shot cracked through the silence like lightning. Wade's horse reared. He twisted, shielding Junebug, drawing his rifle in one fluid motion. 3 riders stormed from the ridgeline, dust kicking beneath hooves, guns drawn, faces wrapped in cloth. Outlaws, or worse. Toma spun and let an arrow fly. It struck, one rider clean in the neck, flipping him backward off his saddle. Wade fired, catching another in the chest, but not before a bullet grazed his ribs, tearing through fabric and skin. Junebug scrambled off the horse, crawling behind a jagged boulder. The third man dismounted, stalking after her, boots heavy in the dirt. She froze, but only for a moment. Then, for the first time since Wade had found her, she screamed. Not a cry of pain, a scream that split the canyon wide. Wade heard it like a shot through his heart. He surged forward, ignoring the pain, tackling the man just as he reached for her. They hit the ground hard, fists flying, teeth snapping, rage unleashed. The outlaw was bigger, meaner. His knife nicked Wade's shoulder, but Wade fought like a man possessed. He slammed the man's head against stone, Once, twice, blood spilled. The bandit cursed, snarled. "Shoulda left the brat," the man gasped. "Her mama? Sold her off. Some brothel up north. Girl weren't worth feedin'. Left her where she'd rot," Wade roared. Something inside him broke. He didn't reach for his rifle. He didn't draw his blade. He used his hands. And when it was over, the man didn't move. Again, silence fell like snowfall. Junebug peeked from behind the rock, eyes wide. Her breath hitched when she saw the blood. Wade staggered, chest heaving, fists dripping. Toma stood nearby, silent and still. He didn't speak, didn't need to. He buried the bodies one by one, covering them with stone and earth. Wade didn't help. He stood there, bloodied and hollow, staring into nothing. Junebug walked to him, slow and careful. She reached up with both hands, wiping the blood from his face using her sleeve. Her voice was soft. "Fragile. You came back." His eyes flickered. He knelt down, pulled her close. "I ain't ever leaving you behind." Toma watched from a distance. Then, without a word, he turned and walked into the trees, swallowed by shadows. They traveled in silence after that, through hills and pines, across rivers barely holding to spring, until the land opened again. A settlement came into view. White church spire, schoolhouse, and scattered cabins. Wade stopped at the edge of town. A preacher greeted them. Gentle voice, kind eyes. He offered Junebug a home, a warm bed, lessons to learn. "She's welcome, here. Always." Wade said nothing. Junebug clung to his leg. He looked down at her, her hair tangled, eyes tired, but stronger than they were when he found her. Stronger than he'd ever seen. But still, a child, and he, just a broken man with a saddlebag full of ghosts. He knelt beside her. "You ain't never been not worth feedin'. You hear me? Not once. Not to me." She nodded, lip trembling. He reached into his coat, pulled out the worn little moccasins. Her moccasins. He handed them to her, closed her fingers around them, then leaned in, whispered something in her ear, too quiet for anyone else to hear. Whatever he said, it made her smile through her tears. Then slowly, she let go. He turned, without another word. Didn't look back, didn't have to. Wade rode alone again, his silhouette a dot against the horizon, saddle creaking beneath the weight of silence. But it was a different silence now, not hollow, just full of everything he'd left behind. On a ridge beyond the bluff, a shape appeared. Toma. Wade looked over, and for the first time in days, something like peace moved behind his eyes. They rode, together. No words. None needed. The sky stretched wide and orange, the sun bleeding into the dust behind them. And the girl watched from her new home, clutching a pair of hand-stitched moccasins against her chest. Somewhere inside her, that scream had become a song. The past didn't let go easy. But sometimes if you fought hard enough, you found something worth carrying forward. The sun dipped lower, the land quieted, and two riders disappeared into the golden dusk.